doing it.
We're doing it. Who presses
Here we
start?
are.
Who presses record?
Yeah,
What can go wrong in episode 1?
Oh my gosh, just literally everything.
I wish I had one of those gummies. That's all I'm going to say.
I know, truly. This is the first time we've ever been recording on camera together for the Wellness Podcast. We're super excited. We wanted to tell you why we're doing this, but first we want to talk a little bit about who we are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flip it over to you, Campbell Ritchie. A lot of people may already know who you are, but if they don't, why don't you give them a little bit of an intro as to who you are?
Okay, well, hi, I'm Campbell Ritchie. It sounds so weird when I'm saying it because you know me as something different. Most people that are my friends and family know me as something different, but professionally, I am Campbell Ritchie. I was given that name by Ellen and Jerry Ford at the age of 15 when I was scouted as a model for Ford models. And yeah, it stuck, but it was always like an alter ego. It was always a character, I guess, that you play. I know that a lot of actresses and actors also have, other names too. One time my dad said to me, it's a really funny story. He told me that John Wayne's real name was Shirley or Shelley or something like this. And I was just like, wow, okay, now I get why he's called John Wayne. But I actually really like my name. And, it's very who I am as a human. But it also was for protection, and from a professional point of view, I got called Campbell Ritchie. So lots of people know me as just Campbell. I choose who I share my life with. And yeah, that's who I am. Or who am I? I don't even know who I am at this point. I think that's the point of this whole project and this whole adventure that you and I are embarking on, Elle. And I think, again, I call you
speaking
Elle.
of alter egos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I call you Elle, although you're Michelle. So yeah, I guess everyone in life has a nickname or a pet name or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I do think that you're right that we are trying to figure out who we are through this podcast together. And I think it would be really interesting to have everyone kind of come along on this ride with us. Our backgrounds are so very different. Yours really heavy in the entertainment industry. We'll get into all of the different things that you've done over many episodes. But my background is very different. I have been very, I would say, traditional in that I graduated from college and went into the corporate world, and have been in the corporate world for in the neighborhood of 20 some years. And most of that has been in kind of the human resources people field. And just about maybe 6-8 months ago, I chose to step away and not continue my journey in the corporate world for many reasons. And I went out on my own, started my own business, and now have come together with you to actually start this podcast.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit about just why are we starting this podcast, and why are you're still modeling, you're still, in your entertainment industry. I'm still dabbling in like a little bit of the corporate world, just not directly for a corporation. So why are we coming together, and why are we doing the Wellness Podcast? So talk to me about why is this important to you?
Well, you know what? First of all, why not? Because, I feel like everything that I listen to, read, and I'm a huge reader. I don't own a TV. I've never owned a TV. I've never watched TV. That's my sort of entertainment with my friends. Like I'll watch a movie or, we'll watch a TV series, but that will be like at Harry's house, for example. Like it's not something that I have time for. It's not something that I'm like, absorbed into. And one of the reasons is because my dad said to me, it will rot your brain. I was brought up very, very differently, very spiritual family, very hippie-like commune style, and yeah, we didn't have that. We had the outdoors, we had books. I was dancing all the time. I was reading, I was performing, entertaining people all the time. And I never had time for TV. It was just not something that I did. So what I've noticed in my life, since a very, very young age, but more so now as I'm getting older, I'm reading podcasts. I'm listening to podcasts whilst I'm driving. I'm reading more than I've ever read. And for me, podcasts are just such a great way to like connect with people and listen to people's stories and really understand that we're not alone on any of this stuff. Like I always feel like when I've got a problem or a situation, I like to say that I turn my problem into a solution all the time. But what I've noticed is I'll go to a podcast and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be perfectly imperfect, actually. And I feel like, why shouldn't we do this? I feel like so many people say to me, you've got so much to say, so much to give, so much information. You've been through so many different experiences, some traumatic, some wonderful. But even so, with the traumatic experiences or the more difficult and more, nails down the chalkboard, uncomfortable situations that I found myself in, they've all been learning lessons and they've all got me to this point where I'm here sitting with you and we're sharing our experience, strength and hope. And I really want people to know that this is a safe space, somewhere they can talk to people, somewhere where they can come and listen to stories and just know that we see you, we hold you, we love you, and we will always love you no matter what. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. It's just, we just got to learn to be. And having a space where you can just be and there be no, oh, well, that's wrong. That's a wrong opinion or that's a right opinion. There's just opinions here. And I really want that to be something very solidified in the beginning, is that no one is going to be judging. No one is going to say, well, you're wrong and I'm right, because no, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. And I think that if we can promote, as it were, happiness, I think a lot of people will be so much more blessed, humbled, and happy in this lifetime. I feel like people are so unhappy and confused and not really sure why they're not happy. And it's generally because they want to be right about something. And we don't need to do that.
No, I love that. And what I love, I think, the most about our friendship and why we're doing this is because we have had different experiences, a lot of the same experiences, which I think we'll
Yes.
talk about over time as well. But we just want to be educated. We just want to learn. We don't know everything. And we want to be able to bring on amazing guests, which we haven't even talked about yet, but just amazing guests who can bring in a different perspective, maybe than what, is normal and what even is normal, but bringing in different perspectives to get us to maybe think a little bit differently about some of our experiences and our happiness and things like that. And before I go into kind of why I want to be doing this in addition, I want to share a little bit of a funny story. It's funny to me, maybe it's not so funny to you, but I'm going to share it anyway. So you talk about growing up, you didn't really watch TV. And as we were kind of talking about what do we want this podcast to be? What do we want to call it? And you were like, I want to call it Growing Pains. And I was
Yes.
like, great. I love that name. There was a show in the 1980s that was super popular. It was called Growing Pains. You're like, really? Will you send me
Yes.
a link to that?
I
And
know.
anybody who is in the same general age and stage that we are, that grew up in America in the 80s, would 100% be like, oh my gosh, I can sing that "Show Me That Smile Again." That's like the theme song. Like they would be able to do it just immediately, and it's just hilarious because that just shows that you truly didn't have,
I
and you
had
didn't
no
grow up in
idea.
America either.
I know. I had
Um,
no idea.
but you also didn't have TV, so it's just kind of a funny story about just life, and it's
Yeah.
just different experiences and why I think we balance each other pretty well. How we think, what our experiences are like. And I'm excited to take your perspective into this podcast because my perspective is similar in a lot of ways, which is why
Mm,
we're doing this. But I also, having been kind of a corporate executive and kind of led large teams, 50, 60 people, leadership has been hands down the most satisfying and rewarding part of my entire career. Being able
mm,
to lift people up, to show, you know what, you didn't know you had this skill, but I see it in you and I want to
yes.
develop that for you,
Yes.
and really build a career for people and just help people develop personally in addition to professionally. And being able to take that into this podcast and really being able to just teach different
Yes.
perspectives, teach belief in yourself, teach
Absolutely.
confidence, and really look at, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, Dad used to say to me, you don't need to tell anyone anything. You need to show them how great they are just by being in their
Yes.
space and giving them space and holding space for people. Show them your superpower is showing them how great they are.
Yeah. And
And
we share that
yeah,
superpower,
I know.
I
It's really
think.
profound. It's really
Yeah.
profound.
Like the Wellness Podcast is really going to be such an exciting place for people to tune in and to listen. And, we'll get into guests and things like that. You've got some
Mm,
really strong relationships across your industry. I've got some really strong relationships across mine. We're going to bring you really, I would say, high powered, amazing people that
100%.
are going to be a great listen. So, this being kind of the intro to the Wellness Podcast, like us, subscribe, share it with your friends, comment, tell us what you want to see.
Yes,
We are
really
very
important.
agile.
Really
Yes.
important. We want people to tell us what they want to see, what guests they want to get on. Like, do that. We've got the power.
Yeah. We've got the power.
Power.
Yeah. But thank you for tuning in and stay tuned for our next episodes.
Yay.